Have you ever wondered how a single moment of kindness can completely transform two lives forever? On a rainy September night in Dallas, Texas, Marcus Thompson, a 34-year-old single father, was driving home after yet another double shift as a maintenance technician. Exhausted, driving his second-hand Ford pickup through the deserted streets, he never imagined that the next 30 minutes would change not only his life, but also reveal the true power of human compassion. What happened that night wasn't just an act of heroism. It was the beginning of a chain of events that would prove that in a world where we often feel invisible, our simplest actions can echo in ways we could never imagine. This is the true story of how an ordinary man, struggling to support his 8-year-old daughter, became the unlikely hero of one of the country's most powerful executives, and how she, in turn, decided to give back in a way that neither of them would ever forget. Marcus Thompson never considered himself special. At 34, his life was a predictable routine of work, responsibilities, and silent sacrifices. Every morning at 5 o'clock, the alarm would ring in the small 2-bedroom apartment he shared with his daughter Emma, a little girl with curly hair and smiles that brightened even the most difficult days. Since Sarah, his ex-wife, had left them 3 years ago to find herself in California, Marcus had learned that being both father and mother was a 24-hour job. He worked as a maintenance technician in a commercial building in downtown Dallas, but his $1,200 a month barely covered rent, bills, and Emma's needs. That Tuesday in September, the weather was especially cruel. The rain that had started in the morning turned into a torrential storm at night. Marcus had worked a double shift. His supervisor, Mrs. Rodriguez, had asked him to cover for a colleague who had called in sick. It wasn't like he could refuse. He needed the extra money. It was almost 11 at night when he finally managed to leave the building. Emma was at the neighbor's house, Mrs. Patterson, a 70-year-old lady who always offered to watch the little girl when Marcus had to work late. He knew he was taking advantage of the neighbor's kindness, but he had no choice. The 2008 pickup had been making strange noises for weeks, but there was no money for repairs. Marcus hoped it would last at least until he could save a few $100s. As he drove through Dallas's flooded streets, he thought about how to explain to Emma that they might have to eat instant noodles for the rest of the week. That's when the headlights illuminated a scene that made his heart stop. On the right side of the road, near a soaked bus stop, a woman was kneeling on the ground. Even through the heavy rain, he could see that something was very wrong. She was holding her belly with both hands, her face contorted in an expression of extreme pain. Marcus wasn't the type of person who stopped for strangers. Dallas could be dangerous at night, and he had Emma to think about. But there was something about that woman's posture, the way she rocked back and forth, that touched a part of him he couldn't ignore. He slowed down and stopped the car on the shoulder. "Hey, are you okay?" he shouted through the window, struggling against the noise of the rain. The woman looked up. She was young, maybe in her late 20s, with blonde hair stuck to her face by the rain. Her blue eyes were full of panic and pain. "Please," she shouted back. The baby is coming." Marcus felt his blood freeze. He looked around. There was no one else on the street, no cars passing by. The nearest hospital was at least 15 minutes away, and by the way the woman was moaning, he doubted they had that much time. For a moment, he hesitated. He didn't know anything about childbirth. He wasn't a doctor. He wasn't a paramedic. He was just a tired maintenance technician who wanted to get home. But then she screamed again, a sound of pure agony that cut through the night like a blade, and Marcus knew there was no choice. He turned off the engine, grabbed the flashlight from the glove compartment, and ran to her. "What's your name?" Marcus asked, kneeling beside the woman and trying to sound calmer than he really was. "Jessica," she managed to say between contractions. "Jessica Miller, the baby. It wasn't supposed to be born until next month." Marcus immediately called 911, but the operator informed him that due to flooding caused by the storm, ambulances were running at least 20 minutes late. 20 minutes they clearly didn't have. "Okay, Jessica, my name is Marcus. I'm going to stay here with you, okay? I won't leave you alone." He had no idea what he was doing, but he vaguely remembered an episode of a medical show he had watched. First, they needed to get out of the rain. He carried Jessica to his pickup, helping her lie down in the back seat. "Marcus!" Jessica grabbed his arm with surprising strength. "I'm so scared. What if something goes wrong? What if I can't do it?" "Look at me," he said, holding her hands. "You can do this. Women have been doing this for thousands of years. You're stronger than you think." The contractions were coming more frequently now. Marcus called 911 again and asked to speak with a paramedic who could guide him over the phone. The operator, a woman named Linda, began giving instructions. "First, you need to see if you can see the baby's head," Linda instructed. "If you can, don't pull. Just support the head when it comes out." Marcus's hands trembled as he followed the instructions. He had never felt so unprepared for something in his life. But when he looked at Jessica, he saw absolute trust in her eyes. She believed in him, even though he didn't believe in himself. "I can see it!" he shouted into the phone. "The head is coming out." "Great! Now, on the next contraction, support the head and let the body come out naturally." What happened in the next few minutes was something Marcus could never adequately describe. There was something primitive and at the same time divine about that moment. There, in the back seat of an old pickup, under the dim light of the flashlight, a new life was coming into the world. "I can see the shoulders," Marcus said, his voice full of wonder. And then, in a smooth and natural movement, the baby slid into his hands. A small and perfect girl, with powerful lungs that announced her arrival to the world, with a strong and clear cry. "She's here, Jessica. She's here and she's fine." Marcus had never cried so much in his life. Following Linda's instructions, he gently cleaned the baby's airways with his shirt and placed her on Jessica's chest. "Thank you," Jessica whispered, tears mixing with rain on her face. "Thank you for not leaving me alone." The sound of sirens finally echoed through the night. The paramedics arrived, professional and efficient, taking control of the situation. As they prepared Jessica and the baby for transport, one of the paramedics, an older Hispanic man, approached Marcus. "Man, you did an incredible job here. Where did you learn to deliver babies?" "I didn't learn," Marcus replied, still in shock. "I just did what needed to be done." The paramedic smiled. "Sometimes that's how it is. Congratulations, you saved 2 lives today." As the ambulance drove away, Marcus stood in the rain, watching the red lights disappear into the night. His clothes were soaked, his hands still trembling, but there was something different in his chest. A feeling he hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose. The next morning, Marcus woke up wondering if everything had been just a very vivid dream. But his wet and dirty clothes in the corner of the room confirmed that Jessica Miller and her daughter were very real. Emma noticed something was different during breakfast. "Daddy, you're smiling more today," she observed, stirring the cereal in her milk. "Did something nice happen?" Marcus hesitated. How to explain to an 8-year-old about the previous night without scaring her? "Let's just say Daddy helped someone who really needed it," he said finally. "Like a superhero." Emma's eyes lit up. "Something like that, little one." During work that day, Marcus found himself thinking about Jessica and the baby. Were they okay? Had the premature birth caused complications? He wanted to visit them at the hospital, but didn't know which hospital they were at. Besides, he felt embarrassed. What would he say? "Hi, I'm the guy who helped you give birth in my pickup." Mrs. Rodriguez noticed he was distracted. "Thompson, are you okay today? Seems like your head is in the clouds." "I'm fine, ma'am, just..." It was a long night yesterday. What Marcus didn't know was that at that exact moment, at Dallas Presbyterian Hospital, Jessica Miller was desperately trying to find out who was the man who had saved her life and her daughter's. "Nurse, please," she begged any healthcare professional who entered her room. "I need to find the man who helped me. He said his name was Marcus, drove a blue Ford pickup." But without a last name or more information, it was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Dallas had more than 1 million inhabitants. Jessica had tried to convince the paramedics to give her information about Marcus, but they explained they couldn't share personal data about civilians. She even called the 911 dispatch center, but they could only confirm that the call had been made, not who made it. For 3 days, Jessica stayed in the hospital recovering and caring for her premature but healthy daughter, whom she decided to call Hope. The name seemed perfect, considering the circumstances of her birth. "Your daughter is a miracle," said Dr. Williams, the pediatrician. "Born at 35 weeks, but responding wonderfully well. In a few more days, you'll be able to go home." Jessica smiled, looking at little Hope sleeping in the crib next to the bed. But there was a sadness in her eyes that the doctor noticed. "Is something worrying you?" "Doctor, the man who helped me, Marcus, he saved our lives. And I couldn't even thank him properly. He just disappeared after the ambulance arrived." Dr. Williams nodded understandingly. "Sometimes angels appear in our lives when we need them most, do what needs to be done, and then move on. Maybe that's the nature of true kindness. It doesn't seek recognition." But Jessica couldn't accept that. The more she thought about that night, the more she realized the extraordinary courage and compassion Marcus had shown. A stranger had stopped in the rain, risked his own safety, and literally put her and her daughter's lives first. What she hadn't told anyone at the hospital, not even Dr. Williams, was who she really was. Jessica Miller wasn't just a young mother in distress. She was Jessica Miller Harrison, Executive Vice President of Harrison Industries, one of the largest technology companies in Texas. Her family controlled a billion-dollar empire, and she was being prepared to take over the company's presidency in the coming years. That terrible night, she was returning from a business meeting in Austin when her car broke down in the rain. Her driver was off duty, and she had decided to drive alone, a decision that almost cost her and her daughter's lives. During her recovery at the hospital, Jessica had time to reflect on her life. She had always been surrounded by people who wanted something from her, money, connections, favors, but Marcus didn't know who she was. He helped her simply because it was the right thing to do. "I need to find him," she murmured to Hope, who slept peacefully. "I need to show that there are still good people in the world, and they deserve to be rewarded." What Jessica didn't imagine was that Marcus was going through the worst days of his life since helping her. 2 days after Hope's birth, Marcus received the call he had been dreading for months. "Mr. Thompson, this is Richmond Elementary School. Emma is in the infirmary. She fainted during recess." Marcus's heart raced. He asked permission to leave work and ran to the school. He found Emma pale and weak in the nurse's office. "What happened, little one?" he asked, holding her hand. "I just got dizzy, Daddy, and my chest was hurting a little bit." The nurse, Mrs. Chen, pulled Marcus aside. "Mr. Thompson, I think you should take Emma for some tests. She's been fainting a few times in recent weeks, and today was the first time she complained of chest pain." Marcus felt the world spin around him. He knew these symptoms. He knew because his mother had died of heart problems when he was 16. He knew because Emma had been born with a small heart anomaly that doctors said would probably correct itself with time. Probably. At Texas Children's Hospital, Dr. Patricia Santos, a pediatric cardiologist, examined Emma carefully. Marcus held his breath during every second of the tests. "Mr. Thompson, I need to be direct with you," Dr. Santos said finally, after Emma fell asleep in the examination room. Emma has a congenital heart condition that's getting worse. She's going to need surgery. What kind of surgery? Marcus asked, though he already knew he didn't want to hear the answer. It's complex. It will require a specialized team and several weeks of recovery. And Mr. Thompson, it's going to be expensive. Even with insurance, you'll probably have expenses of at least $50,000. $50,000. Marcus almost laughed at the irony. He who could barely pay monthly bills now needed to find $50,000 to save his daughter's life. Doctor, I would do anything for her. Anything. But I don't have that money. Dr. Santos gently touched his shoulder. We'll work on this, Mr. Thompson. There are assistance programs, foundations that help families like yours. We won't leave Emma without treatment because of money. In the 2 weeks that followed, Marcus's life became a bureaucratic nightmare. Financial assistance forms, calls to charitable foundations, second and third medical opinions. Everything confirmed the same thing. Emma needed the surgery, and he couldn't afford it. He started working 3 jobs. Mornings at the commercial building, afternoons delivering food, nights cleaning offices. He slept 3 hours a night when he slept. Mrs. Patterson, the neighbor, took care of Emma while he worked, but he could see the growing concern in the little girl's eyes. "Daddy, you're always tired now," Emma said one night when he came home at 2 in the morning. "It's because of me, isn't it? Because of my heart." Marcus sat on her bed and held her little hands. "Emma, listen carefully to what Daddy is going to tell you. You are the most important thing in my life, more important than any job, any money, anything in this world. And we're going to find a way to do this surgery, okay? Do you promise?" "I promise." But alone in his room, Marcus cried. He had calculated and recalculated 1,000 times. Even working 20 hours a day, even selling everything he owned, he couldn't raise the money in time. That's when he remembered the night in the rain, Jessica and little Hope. For a moment, he wondered if he had used up all his luck saving 2 strangers when he should have saved some for his own daughter. But then he scolded himself for the bitterness. He had done the right thing that night. If he had to do it all over again, he would do exactly the same. What Marcus didn't know was that at that exact moment, the woman he had saved was mobilizing resources he couldn't even imagine to find him. Jessica Miller Harrison didn't reach the top of the corporate world by accepting no as an answer. When conventional methods failed to find Marcus, she decided to use more creative resources. "David," she said to her personal assistant, a brilliant young man graduated from Harvard, "I want you to hire the best private investigation company in Dallas. I need to find a man." David Chen, who had worked for Jessica for 3 years, knew when not to ask questions. "What information do we have about him?" "Name Marcus, drives a blue Ford pickup, works as a maintenance technician, has a daughter, lives in Dallas. And David, use all necessary resources. Money is no problem." Harrison Investigations, an elite company specializing in locating people, took the case. With access to DMV databases, employment records, and information cross-referencing systems, they began to work. Meanwhile, Jessica was at home recovering with Hope, but her mind wouldn't stop working. She had made a decision that would change everything. "Mom," she said to Elizabeth Harrison during a visit, "I need to tell you about something." Elizabeth, an elegant 60-year-old woman who had built the Harrison empire alongside her late husband, listened in silence while Jessica recounted the events of that rainy night. "You want to find this man to thank him?" Elizabeth asked when Jessica finished. "I want to do more than that. I want to change his life like he changed mine." Elizabeth smiled. It was exactly the kind of thing her late husband would have done. "What kind of change do you have in mind?" "I'm still thinking. But Mom, for the first time in my life, someone helped me without wanting anything in return, without knowing who I was, without expecting reward. That's rare." 3 days later, David called with news. "Jessica, We found him. Marcus Thompson, 34 years old, maintenance technician at Greenfield Business Center, lives in Oak Cliff with his daughter Emma, 8 years old, divorced 3 years ago. And Jessica, there's more. What else? He's going through serious financial difficulties. His daughter needs urgent heart surgery, and he can't afford it. Jessica felt like the universe was sending her a sign. David, I want all the information about his daughter's medical condition. I want to know which hospital, which doctors, how much the treatment costs, everything. I'm already working on it. That night, Jessica stayed awake looking at Hope, sleeping in the crib beside her. 2 little girls, born in the same week, under completely different circumstances. One surrounded by all the luxury and medical care money could buy, the other fighting for life because her family didn't have resources. It didn't seem fair. Hope, she whispered to the sleeping baby, Mommy and Daddy are going to do something special. We're going to help the man who helped us when we needed it most. The next day, Jessica called Dr. Patricia Santos at Texas Children's Hospital. Doctor, my name is Jessica Miller Harrison from Harrison Industries. I would like to discuss the case of one of your patients, Emma Thompson. I'm sorry, Ms. Harrison, but I can't discuss patient information without authorization. I understand perfectly, but what if I told you I would like to cover all of Emma's medical costs, anonymously? There was a long pause on the other end. Ms. Harrison, that would be extraordinary. But I have to ask, what's your relationship to the Thompson family? Marcus Thompson saved my life and my daughter's life 2 weeks ago. Now it's my turn to give back. Dr. Santos was silent for a moment before responding. Ms. Harrison, if you really want to do this, I can arrange a meeting with our financial department, but I have to warn you, Mr. Thompson is a proud man. He might not accept charity. Then we'll have to be creative about how to offer the help. That afternoon, Jessica was at the hospital talking with Dr. Santos and the financial team about how to structure the anonymous donation when her phone rang. Jessica, this is David. I have Marcus Thompson's address. Do you want me to arrange a meeting? Jessica looked out the hospital window, seeing families coming and going, each carrying their own hopes and fears. No, David. I'll go to him myself. Personally. Are you sure? I can arrange something more formal. David, he found me kneeling in the rain, terrified and in labor. I think I can show up at his door. What Jessica didn't know was that Marcus was at that exact moment receiving a call that would completely shatter his world. Mr. Thompson, I need to be honest with you, Dr. Santos said over the phone. Emma's condition is deteriorating faster than we expected. We need to do the surgery next week, not next month. Marcus felt his legs weaken. He was at work, hidden in the bathroom to take the call. Doctor, I'm trying to get the money, but... Mr. Thompson, listen. An anonymous donor has appeared who wants to cover all of Emma's surgery costs. All costs. Marcus almost dropped the phone. What do you mean? Who? I can't reveal the identity, but I can guarantee it's legitimate. Someone wants to help your daughter without expecting anything in return. This doesn't make sense. Why would someone do this? Sometimes people want to give back kindnesses they've received. Sometimes the universe just conspires for good things to happen to good people. Marcus hung up the phone in total shock. He still couldn't believe it. After weeks of despair, suddenly there was hope. He asked to leave work early and ran to pick up Emma from school. He wanted to tell her the good news personally. Daddy, why are you smiling so much? Emma asked in the car. Because, little one, sometimes miracles really do happen. That afternoon, while Emma played in the small backyard behind the apartment, Marcus finally managed to relax for the first time in weeks. He was preparing dinner, mac and cheese, Emma's favorite dish, when someone knocked on the door. Marcus opened the door, expecting to see Mrs. Patterson or maybe the neighbor's pizza delivery guy. Instead, he found an elegant woman of about 30, with blonde hair and familiar blue eyes, holding a bouquet of flowers. "Marcus?" she asked softly. He recognized her immediately, although she looked very different now, clean, well-dressed, radiant. But they were the same blue eyes he had seen full of panic that rainy night. "Jessica?" he managed to say, astonished. "Hi," she smiled, and there were tears in her eyes. "Sorry to show up like this, but I needed to see you." Marcus was still processing her presence when Emma appeared behind him. "Daddy, who is it?" Jessica knelt down to Emma's height. "Hi, sweetheart, I'm Jessica. Your daddy helped me a few weeks ago when I really needed it." "He did that?" Emma looked at Marcus with pride. "My daddy is really good at helping people." "Yes, he is," Jessica agreed, looking at Marcus with an expression he couldn't decipher. "Jessica," Marcus said finally, "would you like to come in? I was just making dinner, and I'd love to." While Emma enthusiastically showed her drawings to Jessica, Marcus prepared an extra plate of mac and cheese. He still couldn't believe she was there in his small kitchen. "How did you find me?" he asked while serving the food. "It wasn't easy," Jessica admitted, "but I needed to find you. I needed to thank you properly." "You don't need to thank me. Anyone would have done the same thing." "No, Marcus, they wouldn't have. And we both know that." During dinner, Jessica told them how Hope was developing wonderfully well, how the doctors were impressed with her recovery. Emma was fascinated with the story of the birth in the rain. "Daddy, did you really help a baby be born? Like a doctor?" "Something like that, little one." After Emma went to watch television, Jessica and Marcus were alone in the kitchen. "Marcus, can I ask you a personal question?" "Sure." "Why did you stop that night? Most people would have kept driving." Marcus thought for a moment. "I don't know exactly. Maybe because I know what it's like to be alone and scared. I know what it's like to need help and have no one." Jessica nodded, understanding more than he imagined. "Marcus, I need to tell you something. I'm Jessica Miller Harrison. My family owns Harrison Industries." Marcus looked at her confused. "Okay, should that mean something to me?" Jessica laughed, a genuine and surprised laugh. "Most people in Dallas would recognize the name. We're rich, very rich. And I want to give back what you did for me and Hope." That's when Marcus understood. "The anonymous donor for Emma's surgery. It was me." Marcus was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was full of emotion. "Jessica, I can't accept this. It's too much money." "Marcus, you saved 2 lives that night. 2 lives. Do you think there's any price too high for that?" Marcus shook his head, fighting back tears. "I didn't do it expecting anything in return. I did it because it was the right thing to do." "I know, and that's exactly why you deserve all the help you can get." Emma appeared in the kitchen with sleepy eyes. "Daddy, it's time for my story." Marcus looked at Jessica, torn between gratitude and wounded pride. "Jessica, I need to think about this." "Of course, but Marcus, the surgery is already scheduled. Whether you want it or not, the costs are covered. It's not charity, it's justice." She got up to leave but stopped at the door. "And Marcus, this is just the beginning." A week later, Marcus was pacing the corridor of Texas Children's Hospital while Emma underwent her heart surgery. 3 hours. 3 hours that felt like 3 years. Jessica appeared with Hope in her arms and 2 cups of coffee. "I thought you might need company," she said, sitting next to him. "You didn't have to come." "Marcus, stop. We're family now. Not by blood, but by circumstance. Hope and Emma are practically sisters, born in the same week, and you were present at both their births." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching Hope sleep peacefully. "Jessica, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why are you really doing all this? And don't tell me it's just gratitude." Jessica sighed, organizing her thoughts. "Marcus, I was born rich. I've always had everything money can buy. But that night, when I was alone and terrified, with my daughter coming into the world in a storm, money meant nothing. Only you mattered. Your kindness, your courage, your humanity. She paused to wipe away a tear. For the first time in my life, someone helped me without knowing who I was, without wanting anything in return. That changed me, Marcus. It showed me that there are still truly good people in the world. You always knew that. No, I didn't. When you grow up surrounded by people who always want something from you, you start to question whether genuine kindness really exists. Dr. Santos appeared in the corridor, still wearing surgical scrubs, but smiling. Mr. Thompson, the surgery was a complete success. Emma is recovering wonderfully well. Marcus felt his knees weaken with relief. Jessica held his arm, stabilizing him. Can I see her? In a few minutes. She's still waking up from anesthesia. When they were finally able to enter the recovery room, Emma was drowsy but awake, with a weak smile on her face. Hi, Daddy. Hi, little one. How do you feel? Tired, but my chest doesn't hurt anymore. Marcus gently kissed her forehead. Emma, do you remember Jessica? She came to see you. Emma smiled at Jessica. Hi, Jessica. Thank you for helping my daddy. Thank you for letting your daddy be so incredible. In the weeks that followed, as Emma recovered, the friendship between Marcus and Jessica deepened. She visited regularly, always bringing books or games for Emma, always insisting it wasn't any favor. It was simply what families do for each other. A month after the surgery, Jessica appeared at Marcus's door with a proposal that would change everything. Marcus, I need to make you an offer. And before you say no, hear me out completely. Okay. Harrison Industries is expanding our facilities management department. We need someone to supervise maintenance and operations of all our buildings in Dallas. Someone with experience, technical knowledge, and mainly absolute integrity. Marcus looked at her suspiciously. Jessica, the starting salary is $75,000 a year, with complete health insurance, paid vacation, and an annual performance-based bonus. There are also growth opportunities. With some courses that the company would pay for, you could easily reach 6 figures in a few years. Marcus was silent, processing the information. Is this disguised charity? Marcus Thompson, you've known me for 2 months. At any point have I seemed like the type of person who would do disguised charity? He laughed despite himself. No, you seem more like the type who does very obvious charity without apologizing. Exactly. This is a legitimate job offer. You're qualified. I need someone I trust completely, and frankly, you owe me because I'm going to have to put up with your annoyingly rigid moral principles every day. My principles are annoying? Extremely. You're the type of person who actually does the right thing, even when no one is watching. It's very inconvenient for someone trying to be cynical. Emma appeared in the room, fully recovered now, running and playing like a normal child. Daddy, is Jessica staying for dinner again? Looks like it, little one. That night, after Emma went to sleep, Marcus and Jessica sat in the small backyard behind the apartment, watching the stars. Do you accept the offer? Jessica asked. Yes, but with one condition. What? If at any point you feel like you're giving me the job out of gratitude and not merit, you fire me. No warnings, no delicate conversations. Just fire me. Deal. And Jessica? Yes? Thank you for everything. For giving me and Emma a new chance. Marcus, you gave us new life that night in the rain. It's the least I can do. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Can I ask you something? Marcus said finally. Sure. Do you have a boyfriend? Husband? Jessica laughed. No. Why? Are you interested? Marcus blushed but smiled. Maybe, but first I need to make sure you're not going to be my boss. Technically, you'll report to the operations director, who reports to the vice president, who reports to me. So no, I'm not your direct boss. In that case, would you like to have dinner with me on Saturday? A real dinner? At a real restaurant? I'd love to. 6 months later, Emma was running through the park next to Marcus and Jessica, who was pushing Hope in the baby stroller. They had become inseparable. Hope babbled excitedly whenever she saw Emma, and Emma had proclaimed herself official big sister and protector of the baby. "Daddy, is Jessica your girlfriend now?" Emma asked with typical childhood frankness. Marcus and Jessica looked at each other and laughed. "Yes, little one, Jessica is my girlfriend." "Great, that means Hope is officially my little sister?" "Yes," Jessica replied, "that means exactly that." Emma ran back to the playground, satisfied with the answer. "She adapted well to all this," Jessica observed. "Kids are resilient, and besides, she likes you because you treat her like a real person, not like a broken child who needs pity." "I learned that from her father." They sat on a bench watching Emma play and Hope dream in the stroller. "Marcus, can I tell you a secret?" "Always. That night in the rain, when you stopped to help me, I was starting to lose faith in humanity. I was coming from a meeting where people I considered friends had tried to cheat me in a business deal. I was feeling cynical about people and motivations. And now I know there are still people like you in the world, people who do the right thing simply because it's right, and that gives me hope." Marcus held her hand. "Jessica, you saved my life too, not just financially. You showed me that I can still dream of a better future for Emma, for me. You gave us a family." A year later, in a small ceremony in the backyard of the new house they bought together, Marcus Thompson and Jessica Miller Harrison got married. Emma was the maid of honor, carrying Hope in her arms throughout the entire ceremony. Dr. Santos, who had become a family friend, gave the wedding speech. "It's rare to see stories like this in real life," he said. "A moment of kindness that transforms into lasting love. A family created not just by blood, but by choice, compassion, and courage." Later that night, when the girls were finally asleep in their rooms, Marcus and Jessica went out to the backyard and looked at the stars, as they had done that first night when she offered him the job. "Do you regret anything?" Jessica asked. "Stopping that night in the rain?" "Never. Even knowing all the chaos it brought to your life." Marcus laughed, pulling her closer. "Jessica, you transformed my life into something I never dreamed was possible. Emma is healthy, happy, and has a little sister who adores her. I have a job I love, a family I chose, and a wife who challenges me to be better every day. And you gave me something money could never buy, the certainty that genuine kindness still exists in the world." They stood in silence, embraced under the stars. "Marcus?" "Yes?" "Thank you for stopping that night. Thank you for letting me stop." From the girls' room, they could hear Emma reading a story to Hope, as she did every night. "Once upon a time," Emma's sweet voice echoed through the house, "there was a very brave daddy who saved a princess and her baby in the rain. And they lived happily ever after, because sometimes good people really are rewarded." Marcus and Jessica smiled, knowing Emma was right. Sometimes, in a world that often seems cruel and unfair, genuine kindness is still rewarded. Sometimes doing the right thing leads to results we could never imagine. And sometimes, stopping to help a stranger in the rain can be the first step to building the family of your dreams. The story of Marcus and Jessica proves that in a world where we often feel invisible, our acts of kindness echo in ways we could never predict. That compassion has the power to transform not only the lives of those we help, but also our own. And that sometimes angels come to us disguised as ordinary people, driving old pickups on rainy nights, ready to make a difference when we need it most. This story teaches us that true wealth is not measured in dollars, but in our willingness to extend our hand to help others when they need it most. Marcus Thompson didn't know that rainy night that his act of compassion would change two lives forever, Jessica and Hope's, and later his own and Emma's. In a world where we often doubt others' goodness, where distrust frequently prevents us from helping strangers, Marcus's story reminds us that there is extraordinary power in the conscious choice to do good. His decision to stop that night was not motivated by expectation of reward or recognition. It was simply the manifestation of a generous soul who recognized another human being in need. Jessica's journey also shows us that material wealth without purpose can leave a deep void in our lives. It was only when she experienced selfless kindness that she rediscovered her faith in humanity and found a meaningful way to use her resources. The story of Marcus and Jessica proves that our actions matter, that small acts of kindness can create waves of transformation that extend far beyond what we can see, that in moments of crisis, when we feel most vulnerable and alone, a stranger's compassion can literally save lives. And perhaps most importantly, it reminds us that we all have the capacity to be the Marcus in someone's story, to be the person who stops in the rain, who extends their hand, who chooses to see humanity instead of inconvenience. Because in the end, it's not our titles, our money, or our successes that define who we really are. It's our willingness to act with love when love is most needed. It's our courage to be vulnerable in the presence of others' suffering. It's our choice to believe that every life matters, that every person deserves dignity and care. The next time you encounter someone who needs help, remember Marcus Thompson. Remember that you could be the beginning of a transformation story you can't even imagine. Because sometimes all someone needs is a person willing to stop in the rain and say, "I won't leave you alone." And who knows, maybe years later, when you least expect it, someone will knock on your door to repay the kindness you planted in a moment of pure compassion. After all, that's the true magic of human kindness. It always finds a way to come home.